3 days, black businesses only. Is it possible? Killer Mike finds out. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What is up, guys? We're here for the first ever episode of Trigger Warning with Killer Mike, Netflix's brand new show where Killer Mike is asking the tough questions. And tonight's episode is all about black-only businesses. I am your girl, Drew Jones. I cannot do this panel without my amazing ladies. So introduce yourselves.
We're amazing. Okay.
Yes.
Hi, guys. My name is TK Trinidad. You can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad.
Everybody, I'm AJ Talks. You can follow me at Crimson Pearl.
All right. So I feel like there's a lot of hype around this show because Killer Mike is known for being very vocal, especially when it comes to black issues. What was your all's initial thought of when you heard about the show? And what's your initial thought of this episode?
I thought it was perfect. It was, you know how sometimes where, you know, you have black shows and it's like, oh, this is great. And then it turns out to be like, you know, song and dance. It's exactly, it stayed on point. There were some funny moments. Like it was perfect. It wasn't, I watched it all, by the way, so you guys watched it all too, right?
I watched most of it. I'm almost done.
Oh, you're behind, girl. But yeah, I feel like there were some high points, there were some low points. It was really good, and you can watch it. You can watch it quickly, and you know you learn stuff. So I wasn't surprised. I was just happy with the product.
Yeah, I feel like it was an eye-opener, especially for black people. I felt like it brought awareness to a lot of things that we need to think about as black people just keeping our money within and just being successful and trying to grow as a people.
So the challenge is he's going to spend 3 days only doing black
businesses. From Atlanta to Athens.
From Atlanta to Athens, which I went to college in Atlanta, and I feel like if there's any city that would be easy to do, it should be Atlanta.
Well, remember his producer said, if you're staying in Atlanta, then you're good.
Yeah.
But traveling is a whole nother thing.
And a whole nother thing it was. They did a little stats in the beginning, and it was black people can only keep $1 for 6 hours.
6 hours. Yeah.
Were you all surprised by those statistics?
When you get your check, what's the first thing you do?
I pay my bills.
And who do your bills go to?
White people.
Yeah. It wasn't anything shocking for me. I feel like it was very true because black people, I feel like when we do get money, we want to spend it because, you know, it's for the most part, we're not used to having certain things. So when we do get the money to be able to afford it, the first thing we do is, oh, I want to go buy this instead of, wait, let me save my money and, you know, think future, think ahead, but we spend our money quick.
Well, even beyond that, too, you think just like Drew said, the first thing you do is you pay your bills.
Right.
And, like, my landlord's not black. Like, she's straight up white. Like, Sprint's not black. Like, all this stuff is, like, not black. Even the basic essentials. Like, beyond our, like, oh, you know, we're going to go shopping or do whatever. Just our basic essentials, it's not even staying in the community, which is, like, really unfortunate.
I agree. So, starts out, he realizes none of these cars are made by black. First of all, I just want to say this entire episode, there are so many things I was like, damn, we didn't do that. Like, that's not us.
Well, I think we might have invented, but we were pushed out.
That's very true. Yeah. That is a very true point. But he has to give up his car, and he gets a bike. Which Killer Mike on a bike to me is just like...
Yeah, it was kind of
not
funny.
Because he's big, but because it's Killer Mike, and I just feel like...
Well, it is also because he's big.
No, well, all right. But
it was cute. It was
off the top of your all's heads, like, can you think of black businesses that you support on the regular?
Yes. Oh, well, I know for the most part, since I have natural hair, I use a lot of black-owned businesses for, like, natural hair, face care, skincare, anything that has to do with my body, I do. But as far as, like, purchasing products like detergent or household items or clothes, for the most part, I kind of go everywhere. But for my hair and skin, I do use black-owned businesses.
Yeah, and the thing too with the hair, unless it's somebody you like, the person you know who's making it, the ones who are patenting it for black hair is not owned by black folks. Like it's crazy. Like, let's not even get into like extensions and all this other stuff. That it's $1 billion company that, you know, now other races are getting into, like getting extensions and all this stuff. But it's predominantly like run or bought by black women, and nobody owns like the what's it called? Like the umbrella company to it.
Right.
So it's just kind of like, even that, we're giving away billions of dollars to somebody who doesn't look like us giving us products that we use for ourselves that they never use, which is, absolutely crazy.
The idea that he had, that the first place that he could think of that was a black-owned company that he was, like, easily going to was the strip club was, like, kind of sad to me a little bit. To be honest, not because, like, listen, sex workers, do your thing, whatever, like, teach
I like
their own.
he had to tell the Asian, who's like, I can't, you're not getting any of my dollars today, I'm sorry.
That might have been my favorite part, and I wish I would have screen grabbed her face expression because
she had no idea what was going on.
Memes for days.
But the thing is, too, if you watch some of his interviews, him and his wife frequent that club quite often. That club has been around. It's like a staple in the community. That club has been around for a while.
I have been to that club.
Yeah, so it's not one of those things where it's just like, okay, well...
Yeah.
But even too, I remember I was trying to find a black-owned restaurant in the Valley in Los Angeles, and I only know of one, but it's not even like somewhere where I'd have an event, and I had to go all the way to Inglewood, which is fine, but the fact that you can't find those businesses it speaks to a lot to what are we doing with our money. So,
why do you guys think that? I mean, besides the obvious institutionalized racism, whatever, why do you guys think that there aren't as many black businesses?
I think one, because with the money, I feel like sometimes it's kind of hard. Black businesses have a hard time trying to find customers, and they have to pay the rent to keep the buildings open. Like, it's a lot of stuff that goes into having a business, and so if they don't have the support from the community, it's hard to pay those bills to keep it running. So that could be one of the reasons why.
I think, too, also the understanding. I know in particular for, like, the hair salons or the beauty shops that sell products, there's racism within that. Like, I go and support a black beauty shop, and if you go to a black beauty shop that has the products and you go to an Asian beauty shop, the prices are drastically different. And the reason they're drastically different is that the black ones get charged more. So if you don't know the behind of it, why they're charging more, you're thinking, oh, well, they're just trying to take more money, I'm not going to shop there. And the fact is that they're getting charged more.
Right.
So, I now, with that knowledge, go into black businesses like, okay, well, I understand why you're charging more because of this, and I'll pay that. Because it's not until we all start supporting black businesses that they can actually afford to buy more businesses and buy more, whether it's hair or whether it's a grocery store or whatever. Like, we can't do that if our dollar is only lasting 6 hours in the community.
Now, see, with that, I'm so conflicted because, like you said, I do want to support, but if I'm going to a black businesses and let's say it's $30 and then I go somewhere else it's $10 or $15, it's like I want to support, but I'm like, okay, the prices are a little outrageous.
I look at it as an investment,
it's like conflicted,
I get that, and my thing is that I will go without. It just, now that I know, and I've known this for years because I'm originally from Toronto, and that even happens in Toronto where they're getting iced out. But speaking a long time, so shout out to Superstar Beauty if you're in the Valley, you should definitely check that out. It's black owned. But speaking to the owner of that shop and how she's told me how certain colors she wouldn't get, but the store down the street will get it, and the people told her they were sold out. So it's just kind of, for me, it's like it literally, like, if there was one thing like, okay, they're all getting the same prices and we're just trying to get more money, then it's different. But like, I've heard this story time and time again where they're getting charged more, and it's like, okay, well, then we have to support. Like, I just feel like if I can't afford it today, then I'm gonna put 2 cents together and then come back in 2 weeks. So, and another thing too, what I find with black businesses is if you become frequent, then we help each other.
That's very true. I will say that the black businesses that I support, like my girl who does my hair, is she just opened up her own salon. Shout to Divine. But like, when you invest in those people, like, they invest in you, and I think we're not used to that. In the sense of, like, we're not used to having a business do that for us because we don't see businesses that look like us at all. So I agree with you. Even if I can't always afford something, I think it's an investment I'd rather do without than put it somewhere where, like, the Asian beauty shop
doesn't come back.
Yeah, the Asian beauty shop's a perfect example. I can't even count on my fingers how many times I've been followed around a store or, some passive aggressive racist BS.
Yeah, or they can't tell you the products and all this other stuff. But even to, like, my mechanic is Asian, and I have been going to him for 6 or 7 years. And there have been times where I needed to get my car fixed and I couldn't afford it. And because I've been going consistently to him, he's like, don't worry about it. Like, you got it next time. So it's just kind of one of those things where, you know, and that's a father-son type store. But I rather, I get it, where it's just like one of these products, especially with, that's why I did natural hair for like 6 months, and then I was like, I throw these braids in. But it's just like the products are expensive. So like I totally get it, but then like it's gonna come to the point where I think we only, in the Valley, I think we only have one shop that's black owned, and then you can kind of go to England and those other places.
Yeah.
But they're almost fronts because you don't even know if they're black owned. They're just smart enough to put black faces. So that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah. I think the conversation that happened in the grocery store was very interesting. There were a couple points that he brought up, saying study the white man and his endeavors, and then also bringing up how racism in America is very economic and how we still have rich slaves. What were some points that he made during that stuck out to you guys?
I mean, it just points back to like the whole 6 hours. Like there's a lot of us getting paid, you know, whether you're middle class, whether you're poor, whatever, you know, you're still getting money and you're still able to live, but then, you know, you don't think about, you know, instead of going to this business, you're going to spend your $2 at Popeyes. So now you're giving your money to a corporation, not knowing or not realizing that if you can kind of like, okay, I'm going to spend a little bit more here, but in the long run, that person might give me a job, that person might give my child a job, or they might support me when, you know, government shut down, like all these things. Because it's guaranteed you go to Ralph's and you're like, man, stuff got real. She's going to be like, okay, well, the bill is this.
Yeah.
So, you know, and saying it's one of those things where you and it's so true when they said the Jewish dollar spends 21 days, and then Killer Mike did an interview either with Sway or Breakfast Club where he said his Jewish friend called him and he's like, I could show you how to, if you're Jewish, you can spend 75 days without spending within the Jewish community. So it's just kind of like one of those things where it's just like, how are we gonna get over this? We were there at one point and we're stripped of it. So now we have the knowledge, we're armed with the knowledge, we have a smartphone, all this other stuff, and it's just like, what are we gonna do to actually gain that power back?
I liked when he was talking about segregation and how it was like the ups and downs. Like back in the day, we had it. It was looked at as bad, but however, we were thriving in the community because we kept our dollars within ourselves. And then once it was over with, you know, then we started giving our money to other corporations, other businesses, the white businesses, and the black businesses started to diminish and started to go away. And I think that's something that we do need to think about, because I do think it was true. Segregation was looked at as bad. However, black people were thriving within our own communities. We spent our own money. We gave our money. You know, we spent it within ourselves.
Everything.
So, you know, I think it's something that we do need to think about and consider. And when he's talking about the Green Book, when they had a book of black-owned businesses that people had that they can go to when they were traveling, I think that's very important. I think it's something that we need to bring back and make known, because there are people that want to support black businesses. It's a lot. Like, I want to. It's a lot. So I think we just need to make it known to the public.
There is something out there. The We Buy Black, I actually started following them on Instagram. That's the one that we saw on the episode. I started following them on Instagram, and they're on a daily basis giving like toothpaste, all like stuff that you know we can purchase. But I think there is another website where they do talk about like restaurants and stuff like that. So it's just kind of you know, looking for it and then following it and then, you know, applying it.
I just find it very interesting that we're discussing this episode this week, especially with the Gucci and Prada and Fendi and Katy Perry and everyone doing the whole...
Wait, what did Katy Perry do now?
Katy Perry apparently released these shoes that are like blackface on shoes.
Oh, God.
Which...
I can't even keep up.
Yeah, it's too much. Chill out, it's Black History Month. But I just find it interesting that it's so, you know, the topic of like, oh, we're going to boycott and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, no one's really boycotting them, and we're still having a hard time getting these people to invest in black.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, I was just talking about that. Like, remember, like, I think it was, like, in the 2000s where you had Rockaware, you had
Baby Fat.
You had black, like, Bad Boy or whatever Diddy's clothing line is. Like, you had actually prominent black clothing lines that, you know, you don't necessarily know where the money was from, but it's their face that you can go to. And now what I was thinking about is, like, who, and I know Serena Williams just came out with the line, but, like, who...
Beyonce.
Is her still out?
Ivy Park, yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you are right. But it's just like how, like, you can't really think of those names as far as, because, like, all right, like F Gucci. Like we can go here, but those brands are not as big as they were in the 2000s. Like everyone was rocking baby fat. Everyone was like, it was those status symbols, and you saw the logos and everything like that. But it's not like that now.
Which is wild because the fashion is so heavily influenced by Black culture. Like, I will never get over the fact that Urban Outfitters sells Champion sweatsuits, because I remember getting made fun of for being poor and ghetto wearing Champion sweatsuits in like middle school, and now they're paying like $40 for those that were like $5 at the bodega.
Aren't they sold at Target though? Still?
Yes, but just the fact that like that they're capitalizing off of like things that were so common, like, you know, in more urban. It's very weird, and this whole entire episode's made me be like, why do we do that? You know, like.
Well, I think we just didn't, like you were saying, like we have money, and you know, after you pay your bills, you have a certain amount of money, and you know, you have things that you want to buy, whatever, and it's just like you're not thinking in the long term as far as where are all these Black businesses going, or even if there are Black, like why are there no Black businesses in my neighborhood? And it's like you're not thinking about that, because I don't think any of us we weren't in that situation where we saw a lot of Black businesses,
right?
So if we didn't see it, we're not going to miss it.
Exactly.
So now you watch this, you're like, oh, there was something like that, and it was recent, and you know, how are we going to bring this back?
Also, too, what I think another issue is when Black people have their businesses and they're successful, they oftentimes tend to sell them because people want to buy them.
And
yeah, exactly. So I think that if we're being successful, don't sell it, because they're looking at immediate return, like, oh, I want this money now. But think long term, okay? I must keep your business and let it grow from there, but don't sell it. And that's another reason why we can't keep our money within our community, because we sell our businesses when they're successful.
Yeah, well, I mean, what about like the local mom and pop businesses, like all that stuff? Like, I don't really see.
I don't know, because I just moved to California, so coming from the East Coast, from D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, it's a lot of Black businesses and companies on that area. But California, when I moved here, I realized that the Black people are kind of the minority here. Because you go over there, so it's obviously Black people, but Cali is very different. I
mean, I mean, again, if you go to like Inglewood, you're gonna see it there. So maybe, I guess we all have to move to Inglewood. I don't know, but what I do know is that. We want to just say thank you for making us the ESPN of TV Talk. For us to continue to grow, we need to use your help. So I'm talking to you, AfterBuzzers, and everybody on the live chat, all that good stuff. Make sure you rate and subscribe on YouTube, on iTunes as well. Give us 5 stars or better, and leave a comment. Being a part of the AfterBuzz TV has meant a lot to all of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Me too. So we thank you so much for your support. So when you actually rate and subscribe, and also subscribe to the channel, let us know, and we're going to shout you out. So a lot of people have been shouting me out on different shows on my Facebook page and all this other stuff. If you do that, you know, we're going to give us our social medias later. That's okay too, but make sure you support AfterBuzz TV, because without you guys, we would not exist.
Yeah, and you guys are like the extra panelists. We want to know your all's opinions on these topics. What do you guys think? Do you support Black businesses? What are some of your favorite Black businesses? Let us know in the comments, and we'll check them out.
Facts.
So he takes a church bus to Athens because, you know, normally his career would have him in a helicopter or private jet or tour bus. And I was like, must be nice.
Right.
But he goes to Athens, and Athens is where it gets real tricky. He pulls up on his boy LP, who's in Run the Jewels with him, and they go to a Black-owned restaurant, and he's so excited to eat until LP brings up that is this food sourced from Black farms? And it's not.
Well, how many Black farms are there? That's a fact I want to know. Like, just across America, how are we, like, with businesses and restaurants? Like, is that even a possible thing at the moment?
I actually remember it being a thing when I was younger. I'm from Louisville, and there was a Black farm, and it came out, someone did an expose, it came out that a lot of the outsourcing that they required, they were getting kind of like the beauty
pushed out.
They were getting pushed out. Prices were ridiculous in comparison to other farms and stuff like that. So they unfortunately didn't survive, which I feel like that's another reason why there aren't.
Well, I think that's the reason too, with the benefit of the education and having shows like this show, that now we do go and support the ones that are up and running, and then also too that we go and like after I watched the show, I went to a black bank and I started an account, and you can do that online. So it's like it makes life even easier. So I have a saving account with them, and in the long run, if you're gonna start your own business, the one thing you want to do is have a savings account or a debit card with the black business, because they're more likely to give you a loan.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I got into a car accident like 2 years ago, and I just literally needed a loan for an extra $500, and Bank of America refused to. I'm like, I was almost dead 2 days ago. I really just need this, because the person who hit me, they ran off. It was a hit and run, and it's just kind of like, I just need this, like I have 2 jobs, like I just need this, and they said no. And it's just one of those things where it's just like, yes, it's a sob story, but there was like absolutely no empathy whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you know, if you're gonna get a no from somebody, I'd rather get a no from my own people, like they realize, versus some big corporation that I'm giving money to that pays me, that I have to pay monthly fees to, that they could care less if I was there or not.
I agree. They go down to the hot corner in downtown Athens. You said you're from the East Coast.
Chicago. Toronto.
Did you guys, because in Louisville we have something very similar to the hot corner. Did you guys have a similar area where? We had a couple different areas, and now that I think about it, where I grew up, there was a lot of West Indian folks. So I did grow up with black business. My dad was a business owner, or is a business owner for over 30 plus years. So there was a lot of black businesses, and I did grow up with that. So we did have a heart corner, but my dad was very like, you know, he's stush like I guess I got my stushness from him. So, you know, we were aware of it, but we didn't go there all the time.
Yeah, so growing up, because I'm born and raised in Chicago, so growing up in Chicago, I would say that we had a few black businesses, just like where I'm from on the west side of Chicago, in my area. Yeah, we would go somewhere for like, it had a shopping center that was mostly owned by where the black people would go. We had restaurants we would go after church. So I guess it just depends on demographic and just where you are. But we definitely had some, so yeah.
I love the little conversation he had with the barbershop owner, and kind of, I like that he has people involved in the show who can not just like reflect on history and talk about like as an expert, but they were there.
Right.
You know, I feel like it kind of adds this extra level of transparency and like, you know, being genuine towards the show, because they kind of talk about Green Book a little bit, which again, I felt like was very timely considering
the movie came out.
And you know how that was.
Let's not even go there.
We're not even gonna go down that road. But I think one of my favorite parts of this episode was the radio show interview.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
my gosh.
Well, here's an example. Do you guys watch the Grammys yesterday?
I didn't.
Yeah. Oh, a couple.
Okay, well, I'm sure, like, even if you did, you probably heard. So he did a Motown tribute.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, and I don't have an issue. I was talking about this earlier today on check out FNA podcast, by the way. But I don't have an issue with her. But then when I went back and watched it over again, I'm just like, it's Motown, though. And it's Black History Month, and Berry Gordy was sitting in there, and it's like,
and Diana Ross,
right? And then I'm wondering, like, I want to know the behind the scenes, like, who made did Berry Gordy okay this, or like, I just want to know, because if he's cool with it, then hey, it is what it is. But it was just like there were so many other options,
especially because it's not like she's like an Adele or a Jessie J, or not that I would want to necessarily see them do Motown, but at least vocally, I'd be like. I guess.
I didn't really, but I mean, the vocals were whatever. And I think even at the Adele, it was like, no. Like, I wanted to see.
I want to see.
When you think of Motown.
Who performed? Who are you talking about?
J-Lo performed on the Grammys, yeah. And she did a compilation of Motown songs. And, I mean, it was a good performance.
They could have picked someone else that was black.
Or they could have picked several people. Because she did like 6 or 7 different songs.
Yeah. It could have been a collaboration more so than it was.
Yeah, Neil showed up, and I think Alicia Keys showed up, and Smokey Robinson.
But it was like they were backups for her. It wasn't. And that was very weird. And I think it's interesting that he did this with the radio show, because as black journalists, I can't count how many times I've been on a carpet and
you get passed over.
Especially by black celebrities with white publicists who won't talk to you and like will only go to white publications.
Well, that's the whole thing with Kevin Hart and Breakfast Club. with Kevin Hart and Breakfast Club, when he started like actually gaining popularity, his publicist was like not even considering Breakfast Club. And every time Kevin Hart's in New York, he goes to Breakfast Club. Like, it's like, I pay you. And then Jasmine Brand was also on Breakfast Club, and she was talking about it. Like, she would, when celebrities were starting out, they would cover them.
Yeah.
And then once they made it big, can't get an interview.
Yeah.
So it's I definitely agree with that on red carpets. You know, we have two. For you guys who don't know, we have two stations. AfterBuzz. Well, we have more than two, but AfterBuzz and BHL are the main ones that cover the red carpets. And yeah, we would be standing next to an AfterBuzz. And they'll pass BHL.
They'll pass over us.
And it's just kind of like, this is what's happening right now.
Shout out to a lot of, there are quite a few black celebrities who are very adamant on talking to black press.
Don't forget where you come from.
Brian Tyree Henry.
Oh, shout out to Roy Woods Jr. When I was wearing my fro. He's like, he actually denied everybody else and gave me the interview. So like, there are people who pay attention to that stuff, but it's them versus the publicists. And, you know.
Yeah. You gotta, you know, when you're in positions like that, I do think you gotta actively make sure that those people are getting represented too. Like, shout out to Black Lightning. They did an all-black press room at Comic-Con. Like, you got, you know, those are, people need to be actively making those choices because, again, it's another form of black business. So we go to Broad Street Farms, and we get to meet Miss Ethel.
Yes.
Who is just iconic.
I love old ladies.
She's 83. She started this farm. And she also has a restaurant called Soul with a Twist. What did you think of like the conversation between her and Killer Mike, and also how Killer Mike eats?
Well, I love that he asked permission first.
Yes.
Like not to say that he needed to, but it's just a sign of respect. Like this is what you do. Like but like every time I go into somebody's house, like are we taking shoes off? What are we? Let me know what I need to do so you're not talking behind my back after I leave. You know what I'm saying? So I love she was awesome. I love the farm. I love the fact that they had the farm there.
Right.
And the good thing about having the farm there is you know what's going into it. Like you can't control the rain and the pollution and all this other stuff, but you can control, like you see the person who's actually taking care of the farm. So then you know that whether your plants or stuff have pesticides and all that stuff. So like that's a benefit even health wise.
Right.
Versus some random farm that you have no idea where you get your stuff from.
True.
I love that it's a school as well.
I think it used to be a school. Now it's like a community center.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's like
I think I got confused there then.
Yeah.
But I love that there's a place there, especially since
Like a safe haven.
Yeah. Overall, what did you guys think of his, because, you know, he doesn't get to smoke weed.
Which I thought was can't find the Jamaicans.
Which I thought that was very interesting that, like, it's because his LP was the one who was like, well, the drug dealers aren't white, but the growers are, which I think it's interesting because a lot of people, when they think marijuana, they think Jamaica.
But now with the whole marijuana being legal in some states, now you're seeing it celebrated heavily.
Yeah, I saw like cannabis moms, and it was like some little Snapchat show or something where it's like these two white moms, and they're smoking weed, and it's cool. And I was like, I know boys that I went to high school with who got locked up for
that's what I was about
a joint.
To say. They're still in jail.
They're still in jail over a joint. So it's just very interesting. The whole. I didn't know if he didn't know. Well, you used to live there, so is there a lot of West Indians there, or is there not a lot? Or do you have to like find them in Atlanta? In Atlanta, no. Atlanta is like heavily West Indians. I was like, I'm
my
home.
People.
I'm surrounded. But I think it's how we're treated differently legal, like in the justice system. Like, you know, I know a lot of people who smoking weed in Atlanta is very different from smoking weed out here, as far as like what you're willing to risk, and like because it's obviously legal here, it's very much not legal in Atlanta.
I was at a boxing match outdoor StubHub Center, and like there's a bunch of black people there, which I absolutely loved, but three guys just started rolling and lighting. I'm like, oh, this is what we do. Okay, cool. And like one guy told one of the floor attendants told him to, like, because we were on the floor, told him to take it out. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then he left, and then like totally different. Yeah, totally different.
Very different vibes. Overall, Killer Mike, you know, says this is more difficult than it should be, and he kind of calls everyone to action. He says allies This is put your money where your tweets are. And then he challenges all of us to do Black Fridays, which is for
Every Friday.
Every Friday, support a Black business. I personally, I was like, I want to take that up. I actually want to do that. But yeah, what were your all's over thoughts of the episode as far as like?
This is not the first time Killer Mike said it, but seeing it, because when he was on the campaign trail with Bernie Sanders, he was saying that. You saw him in interviews. But seeing it in this form actually made me take action.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's certain Black businesses that I go to, but I wasn't, like, actively, like, going. Like, there is, for instance, like, I'll go to a certain gym because this, you know, the guy happens to be Trinidadian. Shout out to G-Train if they're in the Valley. Go and check it out. But I would actually go and support that. I would go to this certain fish spot, but I wasn't actively looking for other places to support. It's like the places that I knew, all right, cool, I'll support them, but I wasn't like, okay, well, I can do more. So now this episode really made me more aware, and then also made me realize that 6-hour thing is crazy.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, when you think that's only been in the dollar's only there for 6 hours, what does that mean for your kids and your kids' kids? Because now we're losing Black businesses because they're not being supported, and now your kids are only going to see people working for folks that don't look like us, and that's not a thing that should be normal.
I agree.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was an eye-opener. It really challenged me to think outside the box and support other Black businesses. Like I said, my haircut products, like I don't go to the store to get my stuff. I go off online to a company that I know. I've been doing it for the past few years. But it made me think outside, like, well, think about other Black businesses that you can support as opposed to just your hair and just skincare. So, yeah.
It made me just realize, like, the level of comfort that the idea of going to a grocery store and not having someone follow, or a clothing store or whatever, and not have them follow you around, or there not be some passive aggressive like, just seeing all these business owners, I felt like I saw people I knew, and there was a certain level of comfort there, and I was like, I want to invest in that more, because
Another interesting thing too, Killer Mike said, and I've experienced this, where you go to a Black business and it wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. Like, you know, the service was slow or whatever. And he's like, well, you go to other businesses and, you know, they might have an off day, but you still go back.
Right.
That's very
So why is it that, you
We
know.
harder on our own, that's why.
So, well, yeah. And the thing is, too, I think it just, he just brings realization to those facts, because it's like, oh, yeah, that's what I do. But why do I do it? Like, why am I giving them a pass but I'm not giving...
We've been trained.
Right. So, you know, untrain yourself. And it's like, there's certain businesses where I'm like, yeah, y'all were...
Right. Because it's some, I go to a Chinese restaurant and they so rude, like, I would call, they will hang up the phone, all right, thank you, bye, and then, like, real rude, but we would still go. But if a Black business do that, I ain't going back. It's just like, no, just, you know... I feel like you should give constructive criticism. If I'm going to a Black business and I think you could have handled something a little more professionally, then tell them.
Yeah.
Like, tell them. That's how I feel. Just communicate.
Or actually view the situation too, like, you know, almost like not tell them, but find out why it's like that.
Right.
Because I know a friend of mine, he had a restaurant in Hollywood, and it was hard for him to hire people. He said Black people really didn't want to work that type of job. Hispanic people didn't want to work for a Black man, so it was hard for him to even keep staff. And he actually ended up closing the spot. So it's just kind of one of those things where when you understand the situation, you're like, all right, well, you know, let me continue supporting.
And be patient, because for the most part, these are people that's first time trying to own a business.
Right.
So they're not going to get everything right. So they're just trying to make a way. So just be patient.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, I want to challenge you guys to participate in Black Friday. Let's do it until the end of March. Let us know what Black... Do it for forever, but do it for forever, but actively, like, really, I want to see how well we can do this. Let me know some Black businesses. If you have a Black business, let us know, and we'll be sure to shout you guys out.
Facts.
Next week, we're talking about the education system, so that will be real interesting. But until next time, I am your girl, Drew Jones. You guys can follow me on all the things at OKDrewJ, and check out my podcast, The Curve. Season 2 is coming out this week.
Oh.
Hey.
Excuse me. Well, you can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad. You'll find all the shows and all that good stuff on there.
AJ Talks. Follow me on Instagram at Crimson Pearl.
We'll see you guys next week.
Ciao.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.